Hello and good morning, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are. So, session number 8 of these webinars in the International Week of Happiness at Work starts now, a little bit sooner than expected, but that is because I have a rock star, a legend, whatever. But still, my name is Héðinn Sveinbjörnsson, and you can call me Hedin, and I'm from Iceland. And just a little reminder why we are doing this. The International Week of Happiness at Work started in 2018 in Holland, and the two Dutch ladies who started it, they wanted to get some focus on what we are doing, why we because take it or leave it, we spend a large part of our lives at work, and it can have a significant part on our lives. And as nowadays, people experience burnout and whatever. So, but to get to the program, my guest today has written a book called The Chief Joy Officer, and it says that it offers sage, hard-won advice to any manager or leader who yearns to make more an impact on the lives of others. And then he wrote a book called Joy Inc., or vice versa, which came first, I can't remember. And Joy Inc. is for readers in any field who want tangible examples for a healthier, happier atmosphere at work and the sustainable business result results required for growth. And now the man, the legend, a human being, Mr. Rich Sheridan. Was it too much? Are you like...
I hope I can live up to the billing.
Well, you don't know what I had written something more, but like, you are a rock star, a legend, but first and foremost, you are a human being who cares about another human being. Isn't it?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, like in the beginning of my talks, like I really, because although we have not met, but like I know what you have done and stuff, but tell people a little bit of the backstory, who Rich Sheridan is, and like, why did he go the path? Why did you choose the path you did?
Yeah, I think I chose the path I did because it was perhaps a matter of survival. And my life, my professional life is kind of evenly divided now between what has happened over the last 25 years that led to me writing those two books, Joy Inc. and Chief Joy Officer, and the experiences I had in the 25 years before that. I am a technologist. I'm a programmer who fell in love with the idea of writing software, and I was just a kid. And eventually got a couple of degrees in computer science, computer engineering, and launched what the world would look at as a pretty beautiful career path. You know, it looked perfect. You know, I was getting promotions and I was getting accolades, and people were telling me I was doing a great job. But in here, I knew I wasn't. And I was firefighting every day, often working long days, which is very common in the software industry. Um, and quite frankly, I wanted out. I didn't want to be in the industry anymore, even though I was getting all these rewards. And so there was this big disconnect between the way the world saw me and awarded and rewarded me for the success I was having in my career. And yet inside, I was in turmoil because I knew there had to be a better way. And I was determined to find it. And my life changed dramatically in 1999 when I read a particular book. I saw a video. I met a gentleman who would become my co-founder at Menlo, and it changed everything. And very quickly, we started to articulate that we wanted to pursue joy in an industry that is typically joyless. You know, it's an industry filled with turmoil. It's an industry filled with firefighting. It's an industry filled with long days and sometimes all-nighters to try and get something out the door that was usually poor quality. And the team was demoralized because of that. The customers were unhappy. And yet that seemed to be an accepted practice inside of our industry. And I thought, no, there has to be a better way. And we decided to found Menlo in 2001 to pursue a really big mission to end human suffering in the world as it relates to technology, to return joy to these technological efforts. We wanted to do it for the people who use the software we create, for the people who pay for the work to be done, and for the people who do the work, because we didn't believe we could produce any joy in our work if there also wasn't joy in the place where we were doing the work. And so that's the shortest version of my backstory, this bifurcated life of misery on one side and joy on the other.
I'm just wondering if I'm talking to the right person. Maybe I should have talked to your wife before and after.
She's right here. She works with us, and I could invite her into the room. She'd be very uncomfortable with that. But she actually played a role in this. I would come home after very long days, and she'd look me in the eye and she'd say, you look really tired. Did you get a lot done today? And I realized I had gotten nothing done.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Later, she could see uh, the, the 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 creeping malaise in my life, and she said, "You don't look happy." And I said, "I'm not." And she said, "What are you going to do about it?" I said, "I don't know." And inside, I was scared because this is what was feeding my family. This was what was keeping a roof over our heads, and I felt trapped. And fortunately, I'm also an eternal optimist. Everybody here would label me not only chief storyteller, but chief optimist. And I was stuck in a room full of manure, and I knew there had to be a pony in this room somewhere.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of those beautiful Icelandic horses that I've seen
Well,
so many of.
okay, yeah, yeah. But it's sometimes funny how when you are in these situations that your spouses they notice something is wrong, and or the children they notice there's something wrong, and they are months ahead of you, and you are just going down the abyss, and they are just like, oh my. So it's good that, well, it's funny that she worked. I didn't know that she worked with you, so that's you must really love each other. Like,
It is the most natural thing in the world for the two of us to work together. We do it at home, we did it raising our kids, and we do it at work. And it doesn't even occur to us that this is a strange situation. But there are a lot of people who come in like, you can work with your wife?
yeah.
Uh,
So maybe you address each other like Mr. and Mrs. Sheridan at work. So like because you Americans you use always the Mr. and Mrs. So Mrs. Sheridan, how is your day?
I'll find that out today and see how the team responds.
Yeah. But how is it? Because when I think like the things I have heard, because I unfortunately like I can't remember if I listened to the chief joy officer, but in 2001 you start the company and you have this mission of, well, saving the world and whatever, and in the process you want to save yourself. Uh, did people look at you and say, oh my God, he has lost it. Now he has to go to the psychiatrist. They're like, he needs some tablets. Because when you talk about stuff, happiness, joy, like, you can't, when you think about work, you always, my mind wanders to Henry Ford.
Mm-hmm.
You showed up, you worked, you got home. That was your mission in life.
Uh-oh.
And people are like, have anything like, so when you get to this
Right.
mission and you're two and you are like, we want to have a great culture, like how did the people around you and your friends and just the community respond? It's huge. And 23 years ago, nota bene.
Yes, 23 years ago. Um, there's this moment that occurred when we were about 10 years old as a business. And the business was about 10, so probably about 2011. Oh, uh-oh.
You froze a little bit, so you have to, what happened like in the
Okay, sorry.
beginning?
Yes. So there was this magical moment in 2011. Someone had sent me the Simon Sinek video, Start With Why. And it's a very famous video now. And Simon Sinek himself is very famous. But back then, neither the video nor Simon were that famous. But somebody sent that video to me and said, Rich, you do this. And I watched the video, and what Simon described is that most companies can describe what they do. Many can describe how they do it, but very few can describe why they do what they do, or even if they could, they don't. And they said, Rich, you do this. And I thought about it. I said, no, I really don't. And I was convicted. I wanted to start with why. And we always had our why. It was always there, but it was never front and center. And so one of the unusual things about our company is people want to come see us. We get visitors by the thousands, including the chief happiness officer from Denmark.
The Alexander Kjærulf, yes.
Exactly. And Alexander and I have become very good friends. But so I thought, today's the day. With this tour group's coming in, I'm going to lead it, and I'm going to start with why. And I thought, what am I going to say? What words? What would our why be? And I looked at our mission statement that had been there from the beginning. And down at the bottom, it said, our goal since our founding is to return joy to technology. And I thought, boom, that's it. So people came in and I greeted them and I said, welcome to Menlo. You've come to a place that is very intentionally created a culture focused on the...
Oh, frozen again. Froze again.
Darn. Hate when that
So
happens.
you greeted the people that came and you said?
Yeah, and I said, welcome to Menlo. You've come to a place that has very intentionally created a culture focused on the business value of joy. And they looked at me funny and they said, why are you talking about joy? We're here to learn about the software development practices you have and your processes. Why are you talking about joy? And I said, well, pretend we're going to build software for you, and pretend for some odd reason that room filled with people that we're going to go visit, that half of them have joy and the other half don't. Which half would you want working on your project? And to a person, they said, well, of course we'd want the joyful half. And I said, why? What difference would it make? And they said, they'd care more about the outcome. They'd be more diligent about quality. They'd be easier to work with. And they just went down the list. And I said, okay, so you're with me. There are, in fact, tangible business values to joy. I said, now I'm going to go take you back to the room, and I'm going to show you how we do what we do. And anywhere along the tour, you can stop me and say, Rich, what is that thing that you're doing right there have to do with the joy you described when we began the tour? And I will be able to draw a short, straight line back to joy. And honestly, that day in 2011 changed everything. It changed the way we talked about Menlo. It ultimately led to me writing 2 books on joy. And it has me here with you today because I wondered, would the world think we were nuts for pursuing joy as a concept in business? We look at joy in our personal lives, in our faith walks, in our schools, in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our recreation. But when do we ever look for joy at work? Almost never.
And of course you have traveled a lot and you have been to Iceland and unluckily I missed you, but
I'll be back. I'm sure I'll be back. I get there a lot.
Yeah. That, you like, I will lasso you at the airport. But how is it when you, because the US is a lot more different than anywhere else. Like you have some strange things going on and people are secure, job security, health security, blah, blah, blah. And when you're visiting places, does people like here in Iceland or wherever, do they look at you and say, well, Rich, we have been doing this for all the year. Like have you ever encountered people who are just looking at you and say, why is this news? Or you know, because of course you mentioned the schools, and I think because we are always, oh, you are not, why are you so happy? You are not allowed to be that. Right. Did you steal ice cream or money? So why you know, it is just like where, how have you been perceived all these years?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I watch for that myself. I gave a talk after that Simon Sinek moment. I started focusing almost all of my keynote speeches on joy. And the first big one was at the American Society for Quality Conference on Lean and Six Sigma. And it was in Phoenix, Arizona. And I will tell you, that is a very serious crowd. That is a very serious sort of math-oriented, process and procedures-oriented, quality-oriented crowd. And I'll be honest, when I stepped on that stage, I thought to myself, Rich, you got to be kidding. You're gonna talk about joy with this crowd? This is probably one of the most serious business audiences you can get in front of. And I thought it's gonna be crickets in the crowd. They're gonna wonder, what the heck are you talking about? And it was just the opposite. What happened after I got done with my talk, I brought a few flyers and brochures and book lists and that sort of thing. And they literally rushed to the stage to get all this stuff. They're grabbing stuff left and right. And they ran out, and somebody says, "Hey, do you have any more?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, we must have run out." And he's like, "You ran out?" And it was crazy. And I thought, oh my goodness, the world is desperate for this. I gave a talk in Berlin to male German engineers.
Yeah, and talk about push.
And a few of them came up to me, male German engineers in Berlin, in tears, based on what I had shared. I had the same reaction in Japan. This is not it is absolutely not an American thing. This is a worldwide thing. We want this in our work lives. There is no question. As you said at the beginning of the program, this is where we spend in our adult lives. This is where we spend most of our waking hours. And I warn people about this a lot. I'll say this to your audience. Be careful what you say around the dinner table about work in front of your children, because they're listening and they're evaluating for themselves, what do I want my work life to be like when I grow up? Do I want it to be like my mom and dad's? Or do I want to go in another direction? And if all you're bringing home from work are sad stories, frustrating stories, angry stories, your kids are listening.
Mm-hmm. But that is the same with everything. Like, you project to the kids, and they will take it to. Like, maybe when I can't speak more highly of this book, Who Not How, by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, that we are not taught. We are always taught about how. So why, like I am self-responsible for my joy at work, but of course you need to, as a boss or a manager, you need to recognize my sense of worth. Like you must have looked at that. Like, did you go through every stages back then in 2011 then and said, okay, where are we going with this? How are we good? Like, how do you recognize the people who are working with you? And did they turn around and say, what the heck? Or like, now you need the pill.
Yeah, the team was not unfamiliar with this idea of joy in the context of work. You can imagine when we're recruiting, people who come here, and we're not for everybody. I mean, we have some unusual work practices here that don't work for every human being, but that's okay. We're just very clear about what our expectations are. But they have already been, everybody who'd been part of this team had already been hearing what our goals were, what we were trying to accomplish, why we were trying to accomplish these things. These were big goals. And I had to resolve in my own heart, where did the joy come from for me? Right? Where was my source of joy? And I thought it was technology. I thought, I think technology is clever. I think it's kind of magical. If I can create technology, I'm going to wow other people. And that's really fun. And that gives me joy. And I realized, no, it is not about technology. And I thought of this story when I was 10 years old. My parents had bought a bookshelf, sort of like what you'd get at IKEA today. It was a build your own bookshelf, and it was out in the garage in a box. And my parents had gone out to dinner and a movie, and I thought, I was on my own, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to build that bookshelf. And I did. I put it all together, and Then I realized, oh no, I built it in the garage, not in the living room where Mom wants it. And I inched it out the garage and through the house and all the way into the living room, set up Dad's books, Mom's knickknacks, wired up the stereo system. And when they walked in the front door, I had Mom's favorite album playing, and she cried. And right there, I knew in that story, that's joy. Joy is using the work of our hearts, our hands, and our minds to serve others with delight. And for me, that's everything about what we're doing here is we we have two questions that I think every organization on the planet should ask and answer. Who do you serve? And what would delight look like for them?
Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. But and also going back to the story, it is the little things. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a message like just recognize a clap on the shoulder or a little chocolate bar on the table, like whatever. But this is exceptional how you move on. But I'm still wondering because I know you're a busy man and now you have been doing this for 23 years because we always talk about people don't leave business, they leave like bad management or something. But no, you have a legacy. Who can step up to your legacy? Because you like are people fearful of the future of Menlo, or do you have you done something to secure? Because I was talking to a guy this morning, Geth Nadine, he's an Englishman, or no, he's a Welshman. Oh, I have to be careful. And we were talking about there are no schools for managers. You can't you have to you have to train them. You have to pick them out, the right people and stuff.
I heard this statistic, and I only heard it, so I don't know if it's true, but it sounds true to me. So I'll share it. But no, I have nothing to back up what I heard. That said, on average, most people are promoted into a leadership and management position when they're about 29 years old for the first time in their careers. And the first time they receive any kind of official training in leadership and management is at about 40 years old on average. And so you have this 11-year gap where people are just trying to figure stuff out. And and I can almost guarantee you that in those 11 years, the only thing they know how to do is how they were managed. So they're going to imprint on whoever their boss was at the time. And quite frankly, there's a lot of bad examples out there. And so they're just going to propagate a bad example. And of course, the other problem with humanity is that if I lived through a bad example, well, then so are you. I went through this. You need to go through this. And it's almost a corporate hazing ritual or something like that. And it just doesn't have to be that way. I'm looking off in the room to see if you know me, I'm willing to run experiments. I might bring somebody else in to show
Well,
you.
please do, because this is like, it's a bomb. Yes.
Yeah. I might bring in that next generation because, this is an active question. I finally reconciled in my own head that I'm not going to live forever. And we want Menlo to survive, and my co-founder. And so we're actively building the next generation of leadership and have been for a long time. I'll see if I can snare one of those leaders to come in and join me. And you will probably sense their energy and their joy in what they do. And that next generation has been here between 10 and 20 years. So they are well steeped in this. And I'll be honest, the other thing is we don't want to sell the company to another company, right? We want to keep this private if we can, because quite frankly, mergers and acquisitions kill cultures.
Yeah. And then the spreadsheets come in and oh, we don't have much leverage for this and that and
Well, and
whatever.
I bet every merger and acquisition starts off with the exact same sentence. We love you just the way you are. We're not going to change a thing. And the next 30 seconds, they start changing everything.
The ink has not dried on the contract, and it's just like, oh, and by the way, you're fired. So, so this is exciting because you need to know because it's a legacy, isn't it? Like it's that we talk about the stories you hear about companies that did well, and then something happens, or the next generation takes over, and then people say your father must be turning around in his grave because la la la
Yep.
la.
Yep.
But you can't. I thought, well, maybe you could record videos and remind us of so they
Yeah. Well, there have been a lot of videos recorded,
could
so I
play it whenever
often,
they needed.
um, I'm just texting one of my leaders here.
And this is all happening live, people. I feel like I feel like a news reporter from in the midst of great stuff.
Yeah. No,
But how has it been for like your kids, for example? Do they okay? Silly question. Do they all work for Menlo?
they all have worked for Menlo.
They
Now
have work, yeah.
yep, and they've gone off to their separate lives, which is a good thing. Uh, I did delight in a couple of years ago. My middle daughter got promoted into her first uh, managerial position. The first time she had people reporting to her, and that's a big moment in any professional life, right? When now you have direct responsibility for other people. And she says to me, she says, Dad, I'm reading your books again, and I thought, okay, that's cool. She still thinks I have something to contribute. And so she said, I want to know how I want to get to where you are. I want what you have, which again is a proud moment for dad, for a child to yearn to replicate something you've done in your life. And she says, how did you do it? And I said, well, Lauren, did you read the book, the first part, the 20 Years of Pain? She goes, yeah, I don't want that part.
Yeah, I want to skip that.
And I said, yeah, I get it. But understand, everything I do here is reflective of the pain I'd experienced there. And I said, look, you've had a lot of jobs, and I know all of them weren't that pleasant. And sometimes the bosses weren't good. I said, you need to catalog those negative behaviors and think about them and tell yourself and resolve, I'm not going to be like that in the same circumstances. Because we can learn a lot from our negative experiences. We can't
Yeah,
learn
yeah.
everything. We need some positive inputs as well. So I'm hoping her experience here, and I'm sure it has, because I've seen this in all of my children, that they they definitely deeply respect what we have created here at Menlo.
And people guaranteed they have to find their niche, isn't it? Like they can't you can't copy I can't copy your experience. I have to make my own experiences, my own trials and errors to, as you say, like look at your how was it before you came to this place or to
Right.
this place and time. So it's always you can influence people, but you can't like they can't copy you. As much as we would like that I have made a lot of mistakes. I don't want them to do it, but hey, life's a bitch. Like they have to go through it. But I can't take it away from them. I can't clean everything. I can't put stuff away.
Well, and I think there are probably, I will tell you, this is, and I know Iceland has a strong history of storytelling culture as a nation
Hmm.
and as a
Yeah.
tribe. the sagas of Iceland are very important stories to the history of the land, of the people, of the culture of Iceland. That is true in every tribe and every community and every nation. Everyone has their stories, and it is important to curate those stories and tell them again and again. That is leadership. You want to tell stories of triumph and tragedy of the past. You want to tell visionary stories of the future. Stories are what connect heart to mind, body to spirit, concept to reality. Um, and this is a fundamentally human pursuit to curate, capture, retell, and we have a very, very strong storytelling culture here at Menlo. And that is one of the elements that's going to propagate our legacy forward. Um, and for me, the books themselves are immortal. They will still be on bookshelves long after I've passed.
Yeah.
And and again, they won't get everything they need from the stories. They will have to get their own stories. And so I would suggest to your audience that understanding the power of story in our human experience, especially at work, is incredibly important to building a culture of joyful leadership. That is a fundamental element of being a leader, is to be able to tell stories. And so that is a skill that can be practiced. It is an awareness that can be developed. Like, oh, this is a good story. We should tell this story again and again. And again, it could be negative stories. We need to remember what's happened in the past. So maybe we can learn from it, or at least remind ourselves, like for us, 2020 was a terrible part of our story. We lost 60% of our revenue when the pandemic hit, yet we survived. And we need to remember how we did it. And the story we told then, and it's the story we repeat now, is it was a 5-step process to get back to joy. And it was survive. That's critical. You don't survive, you don't get to tell any more stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Adapt. We had to change. Lots of things changed at Menlo very rapidly. We had to sustain. We had to get to a level place because we didn't know how long it would last. And we had.
You were in adapt,
yeah,
so you
yeah.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, so you're still in adapt.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had to sustain because we didn't know how long it was going to last. And the next part was really the biggest part, and that was that we had to, if we were going to get back to thriving again, we had to make a choice. We had to make a fundamental leadership choice that we were going to grow stronger during this time. And if we did all those things, survive, adapt, sustain, grow stronger, we would thrive again. And that was a story we were telling during that time. And now the next step of the story is 2022 and 2023 have been 2 best years in a row for us. So we are thriving again. Mm-hmm. And now the next step in the story is beginning to occur, and it's the story we're telling ourselves. We're going to grow.
How is it? Have you the ripple effect, the Menlo Rich Sheridan ripple effect? Are people do they look at you and make their own thing and tell you, oh, Rich, I did this and it's brilliant. You are just you are right. Or do you get, or do they just tell you that you are a hypocrite? Or I don't know, sorry, I don't want to call you a hypocrite. No, do you get response from people who dare to take the plunge, to do something, to let joy, happiness matter? Because as we, if you want to build a great culture, joy matters. People matter.
When I give talks, I challenge people in the talks I give. And I say, look, I understand what you're going through in your heads right now. You look at me and say, oh, the founder, the entrepreneur, the small tech company, of course you can have joy, but we can't because we're too fill in the blank. We're too old, we're too new, we're too governmental, we're too regulated, we're too unregulated, we're too profit focused, we're too, whatever it is, we're too big, we're too small. Everybody has a word that they'll put in there to let themselves off the hook. And I tell them, I'm not going to let you do that. And I say, I get it. I understand why you're saying, Rich, there's a unique set of circumstances that allow you to do what you're doing. But let me tell you other stories of impact, stories of people who heard the talk you're hearing today and took action inside of very different companies from Menlo. And the story I love to tell is a story of the 180-year-old life insurance company named Mass Mutual. They had heard a talk I'd given. I exhorted them at the end to run the experiment, to try new things. That's one of the things that I tell people. And they called me back 6 months later and said, Rich, come on back. We want to show you the experiments we've run. No one had ever done that before. No one had said, come back and let's show you what we've done since your talk. So, I gave a 1-hour talk, and they're going to show me what happened inside their culture, inside of a 180-year-old, $30 billion life insurance company, okay? So this is a very different environment than Menlo. And Amy Ferrero, the VP of claims, took me down to the claims division. They processed $3 billion a year in claims. And she said, Rich, when we turn the corner into this 100,000 square foot facility, you're going to see helium balloons. And I said, oh, what are you celebrating? She says, nope. Everywhere there is a desk with a balloon taped to the desk, this helium balloon, is a declaration by the person at that desk, I'm running an experiment, come talk to me about it.
Wow.
And I thought, I never said anything about helium balloons. This was all their invention. And we turn the corner and there are balloons as far as the eye can see. Like, wow. So I run up to Susan's desk. I said, Susan, tell me about your experiment. Because remember, the balloon was an invitation to come talk to me about it. And she straightens up and she says, well, I'm the last stop before the check goes out the door. I have to do a 3-step quality check. I have to do A and then B and then C. And if I find a mistake at C, I have to go back and redo step B, and it's the longest part of the process, and the order doesn't matter. So my experiment is to A and then C and then B. And she is just beaming with energy about this. And I said, Susan, how long have you worked here? She says, 19 years.
Yeah.
And I said, have you always been like this? And her face turned into a scowl. And she said, no, I hated my job before. I was counting the days to retirement. I couldn't stand being here. I said, what happened? She says, now we can run experiments. And I said, well, what was it like before? She said, Rich, every idea I ever had to go up 5 levels, over, down 5 levels, back again. She says, every idea I ever brought into work died on the vine. She says, after a while, I just stopped bringing ideas to work. After a while, I realized I'm going to get my joy outside of work. I said, and I said, and now? And she says, now I love my job. I can't wait to get to work. I don't even think about retirement anymore. And I'm looking across this room, and there are balloons as far as the eye could see. In 6 months, inside of a major league old life insurance company, same humans, same equipment, same paychecks, completely different level of human energy. If people don't believe that makes a difference in the bottom line of the company, there's nothing else I could tell them.
But isn't it also like in this example, in 6 months?
6 months.
And she is heard, she is listened to, she can do stuff, she is trusted. Like it's just because people know, they know, like sometimes you just have to ask, you have to incorporate them into the stuff or into the company and believe. So this is, wow, this is, I have goosebumps.
I did too. I like this was
Yes.
for me, you know. Um, uh, Ron Sale at General Electric Corporation listened to the same kind of talk, and he made big changes. Because one of the challenges I give to leaders, a lot of leaders ask me, Rich, where can I get started? And I smile and I say, give up your office. And they're like, what? You mean?
Ooh.
And I'm like, yeah, give up your office, move out with the rest of the team, be near the people you do work with. And they're like, well, you know, I mean, what would I do if I needed to have a private conversation? I said, how many of those do you have a year? Well, you know, like three. I said, oh, so you private office for three private conversations a year. I said, turn your office into a conference room, put on the plaque that says Rich gets first dibs on the conference room, and then go move out with the rest of the team. Now, I'm in a nice quiet room right here. A lot of people would confuse this room with Rich's office. But no, my office is out there at that table, right there, out with the
Yeah,
rest of the team because the team is out there in the big room. And
of
so,
course. You are part of the team. It's
absolutely.
just, it's just like what Gath in 18 he was talking about. Like when if you take the triangle, like the hierarchy, the manager has to step out of the hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
look inwards, and be a coach. Because as we were talking about, what you project comes back at you, or whatever. Like how you talk to the kids, how you do stuff. So, but I know that you are a busy man, and we have, believe it or not, we are almost 50 minutes in, and you have to go teach.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun thing right now. These 2 days, you'll love this. I'm teaching a class to outsiders from other companies, big manufacturing firm and a big insurance company, on how to lead with joy.
You have a great mission in life, Rich. I envy you.
I I am blessed. There is no question. I know I've gotten to a place that I once only dreamed of, and I know that it wasn't easy to get here. There was a bit of nonconformity that I had to pursue in order to get to this place, and it seems now so logical, so sensible, so practical. Why would I have doubted that this would work? But I did, just like everybody does when they're making changes. Um, and as you say, now I get to work on leaving a legacy. And that's sort of, for me, that's the next step in the journey is how do I make sure that this, some version of this, it won't be the exact version, but some
Yeah,
version of
yeah.
this will continue.
Yeah, people have to tweak it. It can't be like, it has to be the next person's legacy. Like, but Rich, like, I know you're a busy man, and you're. Somebody told me that you were having a grandchild, or has it
Yes,
come?
4 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago today,
Woo!
we had our first grandson. We have four granddaughters, so now a fifth grandchild, and that has been just obviously that is the pinnacle of joy. Uh,
Life is good, and having, like, you're rich, rich. Oh, pun intended. 5 grandkids and everything. Like, I thank you very much for giving me the time, and I just, if the ladies, if your team had said like he can meet you at 3 o'clock p.m. or whatever in the night, I was just like, yes, I will take it. I'll do whatever. And then if you come to Iceland, then I will give you a leg of lamb,
oh, I
or
like it. Nice.
fermented shark and stuff.
Mm.
And please take your wife with you, because I really need to speak to her about
I have had
before and after.
I have brought my wife to Iceland. I brought my daughter to Iceland. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. And my only um, my bucket list item is to one day come in the dead of winter so I can see the northern lights the way Icelanders see the northern lights.
Yeah.
Most of the time I've been here in the summer, and it's remarkable to be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's still, bright
Yeah.
sunshine.
Yeah. So like, oh, where are the blinders? But this is great. But thank you very much, Rich. And I hope you have a great day and give my best to the team and stuff. And just and I'm not even going to. Oh, is your team next?
It's funny. Do you want to run an experiment with me?
Of course. Bring him in or bring her in.
Hold on one second.
Yes. Okay, people, this is live, and we are like talking about this. Oh my God, we are getting the next generation. Who could believe that? Experiment is what we do. So, ta-da-da-da-da. poor poor thing that has to come and sit down and say, "Well, I like working here." Oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I love this. I really love this. How can you not have fun? Like, this is just absolutely brilliant.
Okay, here we go.
Oh la la.
They have no idea.
Oh my.
Design assessment.
That's right.
So now, ladies, it's make or break. You will get fired if you don't answer correctly, no? So this
is a live stream.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yes, so you are alive. So I had to improvise. I was just like, okay, like things are happening.
And there is a little bit of
Happening and like, but Rich, if you have to go,
Yeah.
then
so
and maybe it would be easier because you are not there, so they can dish out.
this is Molly and Angela.
Hi there. Hello.
And,
Hi.
I'll let them introduce themselves. And this is Hayden from Iceland.
Oh, excellent.
And it's the International Week of Happiness. So I've been on with him for the last 50 minutes. And one of his curiosity questions is, how do we continue this legacy after me?
Love that.
And so I'm going to let Molly and Angela take it from here, sir.
Yes. Completely. Go away.
And I have to leave, so I have to go teach this class.
Yes.
And, I'll let them introduce themselves just so you have a sense of who they are. And
Yes.
This is the experiment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So who was? Oh, let's go with the alphabet.
Well,
Angela.
we don't want to have a life beyond Rich, but we understand
Well, yes, sadly, but you have to. So, like, how, like, it is just when we talked about it, like the legacy, because what happens when a so important figure, like he is the thing, those two who started Menlo. So how are you going to, like, how do you see the future? So, but what do you do with the company, Angela? Like, start with you. Just
absolutely
a short version.
So hi, I'm Angela Jenkins. I'm a high-tech anthropologist here at Menlo. And we are figuring that out. We are a company that is very big on experimenting and trying new things and iterating on them. And if they're not working, we are okay with ending them. And so we have an experiment that we are running as to how might we change things so that we can continue the way that the business works and the culture in a way that will continue beyond Rich and James. Yeah.
Over to you, Molly.
Yeah, my name is Molly Callahan. I'm one of the high-tech anthropologists here at Menlo, like Angela. So I'm on kind of the user experience design side of the project work we do related to software development. I'm also the people lead, which is a new leadership role. I'm not sure whether Rich kind of talked about. So we have traditionally, touted ourselves as a flat organization. So we have no official org chart, right? We are not big on hierarchy and bureaucracy. That being said, from its inception, flat organization has never meant pure democracy. So obviously, influence and you know time here and experience brings certain insight to decision making. And of course, Rich and James, as co-owners, have always had not a secret life, but a life that's kind of beyond Menlo, where they're making decisions and being transparent and sharing that with the team. But as part of the imagining a future without Rich and James, we have had to think collectively about what does it mean to grow the next generation of leadership, right? How do we begin distributing functions and skill sets within the business that have typically been a little bit more heroic efforts between Rich and James and some of kind of the front office staff. So core business functions like people, finance and administration, sales, what else? Operations, even, and that's obviously a big cross-functional part of how we deliver. So over the last 2 years, starting with the set of folks that are principal level leaders cross-functionally, have been kind of working, as Angela said, in kind of a very experimental way, talking about the inevitable fact that, Rich and James won't be here forever. And what do we need to do? And so I would say, a lot of those 2 years were just kind of talking and being pulled into the whirlwind of what we have always done. But in the last really 6 to 8 months, we have doubled down as a leadership team and made very intentional efforts to begin exploring in concrete terms, what that means. So not sure if you're familiar with EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of an off-the-shelf management system. So, as you're probably familiar with, Menlo is very good on process as it relates to delivering project work. Big on visual management, tight feedback cycles, co-creation with our clients, collaboration, and how we work and deliver work as project teams. That systematicity has been absent from management, again, because it's been more centralized, less distributed. And so our experiments with EOS are really about sort of tightening that part of the business in preparation for a transition that's not going to happen tomorrow or next year's, right? It's somewhere between now and 10 years. We are also at the same time actively engaging with a strategy consultancy called Shepherd Advisors. And they are working with us on, once you're setting vision and you know what problems you're trying to solve, what's the strategy? What's the recipe from getting here to there? And so lots of financial modeling, lots of, how do you balance financial risk, culture risk, all of these other things as we attempt to preserve the culture and all of the things that we love about the organization, and yet learn to do some things in new ways because our survival post Rich and James depends on it. And finally, as part of that activity too, we are experimenting with
Ladies, you don't you talk like you have been there. Like how long have you been there? It's just like amazing.
9 years. 9 years.
And you, Angela?
I'm actually the baby of the leadership team. So I think Andrew's got a year on me, and then like in the 15 to 18 year range.
And Angela, how long have you been there?
I just crossed the 1 year mark.
Yay! And you're still, but like for me, I'm
our future.
I'm just sitting here and thinking how weird it must be for young people talking about the future, and the leaders, the co-founders of the company, they are just there. Oh, yeah, we are talking about. Is it for you guys to? Do you go home and say, "I had the weirdest conversation today"?
Well, they're not weird because they're just normal for us, right? So we do encourage just a very open, transparent culture. We do have very honest discussions, and Rich and James are
Oops.
that.
Oh, you froze. But because I'm just thinking about it, you are not that old, ladies, like everybody else in this call. But like it's like, do you go home and talk to your parents and say, okay, we need to address that you are not going to be here forever? Like it's just mind blowing, ladies.
Well, this comes from Rich and James. This was not something that we from the bottom up said we need to do. They are the ones that said, we've realized that we might not be here forever. And that was a hard realization, but now we need to.
I'm going to correct this a little bit.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh.
So I will say obviously the decisions to act on that realization are Rich and James. But there has been internal pressure and influence probably for about the last 4 or 5 years, from senior team members, right? And what it started with is simply not about retirement or something bad happening, right? But what if they're all out on the same day? Right? Because they want to take an extended vacation or somebody's sick. If you had Rich, James, and the factory floor manager, who happens to be Rich's wife, out all on the same day, and maybe it wasn't just a day, maybe it was a week, how does the business function? Are we thinking about that? Are we setting the team up for success to be able to run seamlessly in their absence? And so it started, right, as kind of on a temporary basis, and then thinking about, that's good training ground for a longer term exit. And the truth of the matter is Rich and James probably aren't going to exit at exactly the same time. And we don't know what that will look like, or, maybe they will, right? But just being able to think about those possibilities and be really proactive. So we won't bore you with the details, but there are other organizations that we're reaching out to, because a big part of being sustainable is being a financially healthy organization. And one of the aspects of our existing culture and organization that we are deeply committed to preserving is the ability to be privately owned. We don't want to have loans with the bank. We definitely don't want to do a buyout, and are very grateful that Rich and James don't want to go that path either, if avoidable. So this is all about thinking very creatively, and being patient as we kind of consider team needs, business needs, owner needs, as we contemplate what that looks like.
Who just like from Iceland were a great leader. He went on a horse ride trip. Yep. And he was just preparing to get on a horse, and he just had a heart attack and collapsed, and his company just. But because it's like you think that life will just preserve, like everything will go on, and of course it is ridiculous to talk about this stuff, but you have to, because you have something that you don't want to ruin.
Right.
And you definitely don't want to be the people who do it. So I command you. Like it's just like, thank you. But I don't want to keep you, because your workday is starting. I guess it's 1:00 here by me in Iceland. So this was really the top of the ice cream. Like it's a cherry on the cake and stuff. So thank you for stepping in and and tell him the experiment worked, because I have goosebumps, and I just it's just fun, because I live for surprises can just make wonders, don't they?
So I'm gonna leave you with one more little juicy tidbit, and this is one of these things that's happening and has been happening for the last couple of years so seamlessly. He's probably not even thinking about it, but I will tell you this experiment right now is also part of the transition plan, because when you started and you said, how is this going to happen? Rich is the face of Menlo. Rich is the brand. If he leaves, so having team members speaking publicly, we do that and have been doing that for a long time in terms of tours and things like this, but continuing to be strategic in how we interface with the public and tell our stories, including giving talks and keynotes. So, and both of us are in that camp of being public speakers for Menlo, is part of, again, it's not who's going to replace Rich in that function. It's how, as a team, are we going to fill some of that void? Because, we're not going to replace Rich, right?
No, and you can't, and you have to find your own niche. You have to be true to yourself, and like you have to that we also talked about that. But Angela and Molly, like my heart just I love this. This is just the biggest surprise ever, and I'm just like it's so much fun to hear how you are going to do this. So just. I will accredit you like wherever I can. I hope I can. Callahan, I hope I will find your name. Like my name is Héðinn Sveinbjörnsson. Héðinn Sveinbjörnsson. Chew on that, ladies, because it's very hard to say my name. But we will talk about that. Yeah. So just from the bottom of my heart, and because you are there, so can you both take like great like I sure would love to see you guys and just give you a hug, because this
it's
it's like it's so much fun. Sorry?
Thank you
Sorry,
so much.
what did you say, Angela?
Yeah, this has been fabulous.
Well, it takes practice, like you have to practice.
Yeah, right.
So thank you very much. I will end the stream and just like thank you very much, guys, and have a great day and have a great weekend.
You